We're back, my friend Phil and I, to talk about all things pop culture. And today we're going to talk about the San Diego Comic Convention, which both of us have attended many, many times. Phil's going to be there this year again. There's a remote chance I'm going to be there, although the crowds really get me down. The first time I went to the San Diego Comic Convention was held in an old hotel in downtown San Diego in the basement. This was before they built the new convention center. I remember that trip vividly. Some of the greats were there. Jack Kirby. In fact, that's where I met Jack Kirby. It was on his I think his 70th birthday, and he was there, and he just came, and the dude made a big deal about him because the dude worships Kirby. We all do. And I just shook his hand and said, "Happy birthday, Mr. Kirby." And that's the only time I spent with him, but it was well worth it. Will Eisner was there. He was there often, and so many other of the greats. It was in the early 80s, and it was my first trip. It was recently after we launched Nexus, a year or two, and the dude was there too, and it was quite an experience. But that was, well, I know I do have another memory about it that I'm going to let Phil kick in here too and tell us about his first trip.
Believe it or not, I hadn't been going that long. I've gone to comic conventions forever, but I never went to San Diego until about 8 or 9 years ago. And the reason was it was always too hard to get passes in hotels. And but I'm friends with Bob Burden, the Flaming Carrot creator and Mystery Men and Eisner Award winner. And he was like, "Hey, I got a room, 2 beds. You want to be my roomie? And we'll take over San Diego." And so we did. And it was a lot of fun, and having a guest badge is always really, or professional badge is always handy. And, I will tell you one of my favorite memories. I was producing a documentary. I was one of the producers on a documentary called From the Bridge. It's about pop culture and how fandom went from an underground community to the most powerful consumer base in modern times. And it's hosted by George Takei, Carrie O'Quinn. It talks a lot about Starlog Magazine, Fangoria, and the early conventions. And we were debuting the trailer, and we were in Hall H at San Diego. Greg Grunberg was our moderator. We had Nichelle Nichols on the panel, Carrie O'Quinn, who created Starlog and Fangoria, and we had who else was on the panel? Tom DeSanto, who was producer of Transformers and X-Men movies and helped reboot Battlestar Galactica. It was huge. Needless to say, the documentary's still not out. It's on a long hiatus. I've been trying to push it. But anyway, so we're at San Diego. We're getting the royal treatment, because we're a Hall H speaker. And so I was on the guest list for some cool things. So I get invited to the opening of the comic book museum in San Diego. They're having this VIP party to launch the museum. So Bob got to be my plus one. And so I'm on the VIP list. So I show up and they're like, "Well, the VIPs don't get in till 9. These are the VIPs right now." And Bob always uses a little Jedi mind trick called the pros from Dover. If you've ever seen the MASH movie, when they go to work on the general's daughter, they go to like Japan to help the general's daughter, and they barge into the hospital and they're like, "Who are you? Who are you? Why are you here?" And like, "Oh, we're the pros from Dover." Means nothing. So Bob basically Jedi mind tricked the girl. He said, "Look, we're the pros from Dover. And we're not here for free shrimp and open bar. We're just on the wrong list. So go ahead and give us our badges so we don't have to wait outside." And the girl's like, "Okay." And what's crazy is Larry Niven was waiting outside, and he wasn't even on that one. So I immediately ran straight for the shrimp when I got into the party, and I'm standing in line to get a drink, and Bob texts me, he goes, "Where are you?" And he goes, "Come to the back." I'm like, "All right." He goes, I'm talking to some old friends that you would like to meet." So I go to the back, and there's Bob standing with Frank Miller and Todd McFarlane. And it was a really cool, visit, because, I know McFarlane is a very big sports fan, and I'd met him before because I do work with the NHL, and he's a big hockey fan. So I was like, "Hey, man, I met you before at the NHL All-Star game in Atlanta. You were there promoting a exclusive figure that you did of somebody that's a hockey player." And so we start geeking out on talking sports, and it was funny because I didn't talk to him all about comic books. And I said, "Man, I got to know one thing. What was it like when you got to hold the Mark McGwire record-setting home run ball?" And he was like a kid in a candy store. He was just like, "Oh my gosh." And he's just a super, super sports fan. So that was probably one of my favorite San Diego Comic-Con moments. Not only did I get to hang out and visit with Frank Miller and McFarlane and Bob, but also the reason we were in there is because Bob Jedi mind tricked the girl at the check-in desk and assured her we weren't there for the shrimp and open bar. And it was really cool. So that's my favorite story from San Diego.
Well, that first year there was a independent comic creator, famous guy with a brilliant body of work, and he had a penthouse at a hotel down by the harbor that is no longer there. And he was having a party that evening up on the top floor. In those days, a lot of people were doing blow. A lot of people were doing blow. So some friends and I went up to the penthouse probably around 11 in the evening, and the place was just humming. It was packed. The music was playing. People were dancing. And there was a pile of blow the size of an anthill on top of a table in the main room. And people were availing themselves of that. I did not avail. Either I had had enough at that time or I was just being reticent and had some self-control. Anyhow, we left at 2 a.m. and the police came at 4 a.m. and told him to shut it down, but they didn't make any arrests.
They got lucky. One of the things that's cool about San Diego, as you've kind of alluded to, everybody's there. Almost everybody's there. And most people are pretty accessible. If you're a true comic fan, you never know who you're going to run into at dinner. You never know who you're going to run into in the hallway or on the sidewalk. And it really is a cool experience. And if you're in the industry, it's cool because there's some really good parties. I love going to the Eisner Awards. One of my other favorite stories, Bob and I were going to the Eisner Awards, and we never made it in the awards because they have a bar out in the lobby and these tables. And so we run into Sergio how do you say his last name? Aragonis. We run into Sergio, and I didn't know him, but Bob did. And he sits down with us, and we just start talking, telling stories. And then he starts singing for us. And he's a great singer. And so it was just one of those weird moments while the Eisners are going on inside the ballroom. We're out in the lobby, and Sergio's giving us a concert for like 4 people sitting at a table. Those are just fun memories, and glad I was in the right place at the right time.
You mentioned Nichelle Nichols. I've attended a lot of cons where the surviving members of Star Trek were guests. Some of them are no longer with us, but Scotty was still there, and the guy that played the Russian, and a couple of others. And we would have dinner at the same table. And most of them hated William Shatner, and we're not ashamed to say it. But I was at the Chicago Comic-Con one year. I was at the con, and the Star Trek guests were there too. My wife was at the con, but she wasn't. She was at the hotel, but she wasn't at the con. I dragged her onto the floor um, before that, and it was just too much for her. So around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I returned to the hotel, and I spotted her in the dining room having lunch with Nichelle Nichols.
Wow.
And it was just that they were two single women at the time. I mean, they didn't have anybody with them, and they decided to sit together.
So, did she enjoy it? Did she have fun
Oh yeah,
talking to
yeah,
her?
yeah, yeah, yeah. She
You
enjoyed.
know, you know what? I've heard that a lot of the Star Trek cast has a beef with William Shatner. I've worked with Bill on
I know you
projects, and he has always been one of the nicest guys. Very generous. In fact, at the end of this month, he has a private party he does every year, and it's a charity event called the Hollywood Charity Horse Show. And it is like 100 people there, and all the money raised goes to get veterans and children therapy on horses for free. And he rides out on a horse, does some tricks. I mean, he's in his 90s, and the guy
yeah.
is like acts like he's like 60, and he's also the auctioneer for the celebrity auction. So I'm going. I have a table this year, and it's an amazing charity. I've played it. I was one of the opening acts one year just for fun. I opened up for Winona Judd because they've met REO Speedwagon, Brad Paisley, and it's for 100 people, and they just raise money, and he gets veterans and children therapy on horses, and he's a really good guy. I mean, in fact, if anybody watching this show wants to donate, horseshow.org is the website, and they have a silent auction, tons of autographed memorabilia. Vanna White is going. She's going to be at my table this year because her brother and I do a podcast together called Relatively Famous. And Vanna donated to the silent auction a baby blanket that she knitted. So if you want to buy a Vanna White hand knitted baby blanket, it's on the horseshow.org auction right now. So, I've heard stories of people had a beef with Bill, but I've had nothing but positive experiences with him. And the way I got to know him is he and Leonard Nimoy were doing an event during San Diego Comic-Con at the aircraft carrier, and they wanted to stream it. So I helped them with the technology to stream it, and we made a custom virtual set that looked like they were on the bridge of a starship. And I didn't make it. We had it made. And that's how we started working with Bill. And because Bill was thankful we helped him with that, there was a computer graphics trade show called CGraph, which it's still around. It's where all the animation software is debuted, and they talk about visual effects and things like that, the science of visualization. And I was working at New Tech at the time, and it was in LA. And so I curated a panel that was Dick Van Dyke interviewing William Shatner in our booth, talking about how computer animations changed science fiction television.
Wow.
And it was the coolest thing because there was no one at any other booth in the entire show floor when that panel happened, because we had to have the show had to get security, and we pulled Bill and Dick Van Dyke in at the back in a limo, and we walked them in, and then I introduced them, and then they just sat down and talked about how, from Star Trek days to now, or even because Dick Van Dyke was such a legend of cutting edge technology. If you look at Mary Poppins, and you had the rotoscoping, and you had, him dancing with the penguins, and, it was cutting edge, bed knobs and broomsticks. And so a lot of people don't realize that Dick Van Dyke was such a cutting edge actor in shows that debuted or pioneered uses of new technologies. And another thing that people didn't know is that Dick Van Dyke was also he knew how to do 3D animation, and he was a client of New Tech. So he had a video toaster and was making videos at his house. But when he was on Diagnosis Murder, he went to the producers and said, "Look, I'd like to do some 3D animation on the show." So he did some visual effects shots for Diagnosis Murder because he knew how to do Lightwave 3D. So yeah, that's it's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon and a name drop extravaganza. But it all leads back to, I think Bill Shatner is a really good guy, and he has a big heart that wants to help a lot of kids, and he really does focus on helping the veterans too, and you got to respect that.
Oh, I do. And not only that, but I think that however he was when they were filming Star Trek in the 60s, people change and they learn.
And he's still a fan favorite.
Yeah, of course he is.
Another funny story about Nichelle Nichols. So Nichelle was on that From the Bridge panel, and you can watch the trailer for From the Bridge on YouTube. If you look for From the Bridge trailer, look up Nichelle Nichols. There's an interview we did with Nichelle that was amazing. But so we're doing a little party, a PR party for the movie in Hollywood, and we invited Nichelle, and she came, and she's passed away since, but she was suffering from dementia, but she was still just sweet, sweet, sweet woman, very great storyteller. But she, her I guess it was her significant other, Gilbert, comes over to me and he says, "Philip, tonight I need you to do a favor for me. Nichelle is going to ask for vodka soda. You're the only one that can give her drinks. And when she asks for a vodka soda, go to the bar and give her a soda with lime with no vodka. And she is going to just ask you for vodka sodas, and do not let anyone get her a drink. She does not need to drink. It's not good for her. So vodka soda with lime is what you're going to get her all night." So I turned from a producer of the movie into Nichelle Nichols' waiter for the entire party, and we just had a great time. And at that party, it was unbelievable. Carrie O'Quinn, who started Starlog and Fangoria magazine and started all the early Star Trek conventions, and in fact, when George Lucasfilm called him and said, "Look, we love what you're doing for Star Trek. Can you put together a Star Wars convention?" So what became Star Wars Celebration, Carrie O'Quinn created. And at the first Star Wars convention that Carrie created, he surprised George Lucas with a special guest that wanted to meet him. And it was, I just went blank.
I know how that goes, Phil.
It was Gene Roddenberry. It was the first and only time that Gene Roddenberry and George Lucas met, and it was on stage at that convention. And in the documentary, if it ever comes out, we've got the footage. But anyway, it was really cool. Nichelle, so Carrie and Nichelle are like longtime dear friends. And so at this party, Nichelle and Carrie get up on stage and sing a duet together. And her voice was perfect. Oh my gosh, it's just such a great memory. But it all leads back to Comic-Cons.
Well, actors often learn to sing, and I have to say, Hugh Jackman is a better singer than Neil Diamond, and that ignited fury. But after I saw Song Sung Blue, I decided to look at Neil Diamond's movie, The Jazz Singer, and I couldn't get through it. It was kind of ham-handed.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and there's no comparison between their voices, but Hugh Jackman has done a lot of musical features, including The Greatest Showman. Yeah, but to get back to San Diego, there's a little known event that takes place at noon on Saturday, and they don't announce it for obvious reasons. It's called the Fanboy Shuffle. In it, cosplayers gather at the southwest corner of the main room. Now, if anybody's been to San Diego, they know how enormous that room is. It's bigger than a football field.
Oh, it's probably like 5 football fields.
Yeah. And at the stroke of noon, they race from the southwest corner to the northeast corner. And the rules are you can't shove anybody out of the way, you can't knock anybody down. If you do, you're disqualified. And I was there one year when it happened, and I see all these guys, mostly young men in costume, Wolverine, Deadpool, whoever, and they're snaking through the crowd. They're juking this way, they're juking that way, and it was the fanboy shuffle. And I think that the record for the time is 12 and a half minutes, which is pretty damn fast when you're racing through a room with more than 100,000 people.
Oh, it's so crowded. I can't believe they did it in 12 minutes.
I know. Well, that's the thing about San Diego is if you faint, you're not going to fall down. The press of bodies is so tight around you that they're just going to hold you up.
It's funny. Another reason that I would not go to San Diego previously is that I am spoiled. And unless I have credentials or whatever, I don't like big crowds. I don't want to fight crowds.
I know.
And so the first San Diego I went to was with Bob, but also I was supporting Fox and WB because they announced their shows and they stream and interview the cast. And so my daughter at the time, Natalie, was a big fan of the Flash series on CW, which, Mike, you were an influencer in. They based it on really your Flash Volume 2, it seems like.
They did.
And so my daughter calls me and she's like, Dad, I know you don't like to wait in lines, but the cast of the Flash is doing a signing. Will you go get me an autograph? And so I was like, sure. When your daughter asks you, you do it. So I'm thinking, you know what? I'll go at 6 a.m. I'll get there early and I'll get her an autograph. So I walk up to the front of the convention center and I'm like, where's the line? And they're like, oh, we're in the line. So it's at the front door, the line starts, and I walk around the building, and you know how big the building is. I walk to the side of the building. I walk behind the building. I walk out onto the marina pier. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And people are like, no, we've been camping out for 2 days for this.
And I suppose you walked a mile to get that.
Oh, more than a mile. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm here at 6 a.m. I might as well just stay in line. Maybe it'll move fast. And I didn't even know how it worked. So the way it works is you get in line for autographs. And when you get up there, they tell you what signings are available, and you get to pick which one you want. And so once it's full, so needless to say, I was nowhere close to getting an autograph from Flash. By the time I got there, there were like 3 things left. And one was the TV show Riverdale. And so, I'm like, okay, fine, I'll take Riverdale. And then I go to the WB booth and I'm up on the top of it where we're streaming. And I'm like talking to the publicist. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, I had no idea. They're like, where have you been? I was like, dude, I was in this line. And my daughter wanted an autograph of the Flash. And I thought if I got here at 6 a.m. and they all started laughing, like, dude, they've been camping out for days for this. And so she's like, let me call the publicist of CW and see if I can get you in. And we couldn't get in. And she goes, are there any WB shows that you would want? And I was like, well, let's do Gotham. So it was cool because they basically walked me down. So I'm up on the second floor of their booth where all the cameras are. And they walked me down and put me in the very first person in line. And so the cast walks out and I'm doing a selfie video. I'm like, hey, I'm here at San Diego Comic-Con. Oh, wait, the cast of Gotham is photobombing me. And, and then they start making faces. And then I walk through the line and I get the autographs. And, I know they thought this guy's first. He must have some connections. And so then I go back upstairs. And so they finish their autographs. And then the cast comes up to where I am. And they're like, whoa, you were downstairs. You went through the line. I was like, yeah, it's for my daughter. And it was a cool experience. And then I went through the Riverdale. I went to the Riverdale signing, and it was Luke Perry, I think, was one of the guys in it. And he looks at me. He goes, "You and I are the two oldest guys here." He goes, "I know you're not here for you." And I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm getting signed autographs for my daughter." So, but that's what's cool about San Diego is people do bring out all the celebrities. Fans can meet them if they're willing to camp out. And it's just a fun experience. I love going now, especially now that I'm credentialed, you know, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, the first couple of years I went, we used to go out to what's that hotel on the peninsula? Classic old hotel.
I know what you're talking about. I can't remember what it's
All
called.
right, let's find out.
While you look that up, I will make a little bit of a secret announcement. Is Axicab, which is the comic that I created, and Mike is writing the new limited series issues 1 through 5. Is my publisher is Antarctic Press, and it looks like I'm going to have table time in the Antarctic Press booth where we're going to bring out copies of Axicab to sell. And also I'm going to have the artwork with me for part of. Oh, Mike, yes, you got an Axicab handy. It was at arm's reach, and we're going to be doing a signing. We're going to talk about the upcoming issue, and if Mike is at San Diego this year, I'm going to recruit him to do a signing of some posters from the new limited series that we'll have that will be debuted at San Diego Comic-Con. So anyway, so now did you find the hotel?
Hotel del Coronado.
The Coronado. Oh, gotcha.
Still there. It's been there for over 100 years. One of the great old hotels in America. There's the Broadmoor in Colorado Springs, and of course the Regency in New York. And I could name a couple more. I lived in Boston for many years, and I used to interview people there because I was music editor for the Boston Phoenix, and I just wish I could remember the name of the hotel. But I remember the guy I interviewed. It was Freddie Mercury.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah,
Dude,
that was.
Your comic fans don't understand what your backstory is on your music influence and
That's all coming
writing. Yeah, you've been sharing some interviews. I mean, yeah. Who is the best? This is your show, but I'm going to ask you, Mike. Who was the person you interviewed that you geeked out the most to interview?
Oh gosh.
And it doesn't have to be the biggest star. It's like the one that you're like, oh my gosh, I can't get to interview this person.
Eric Carmen.
Eric Carmen. Yeah. I don't even know who that is. Who is Eric Carmen?
The lead singer of the Raspberries. Go All the Way.
Okay. And so you geeked out going into that interview?
Yeah, because I'm a huge power pop fan, and the Raspberries
I do know that.
were seminal groups. I also got to interview Rick Derringer years later, and he was another one. He was in. He played with Edgar Winter. I wish I'd interviewed Edgar Winter. Although I saw him many times, I just adore Edgar Winter. I like him even more than his brother. But
Johnny Winter.
Yeah, but those are some of the guys whose memories I cherish, who were very friendly, very kind. The worst interview I ever had, there was no interview because he was such a prick, was Elvis Costello.
Really?
Yeah. It was on his first American tour, and I caught up with him in Madison, Wisconsin, where I was music editor for Phoenix. And I said, Mr. Costello, can you answer a few questions for the newspaper I write for? Piss off!
Seriously?
Yeah, and he kept saying it over and over again.
Why? Why was he like that? Do you know?
I have no idea. But some people be like that.
He ripped his underwear that morning and was just irritable. It's one of my good friends here in San Antonio who's since passed away. His name was Russell Rush, and he was the #1 on-air talent for iHeartMedia in this market. So he would always interview, Justin Bieber and, whoever was coming to town would come to do their interviews with Russell. But he was telling me the worst interview he ever did was Jared Leto from 30 Seconds from Mars or whatever.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Because he said he was so arrogant. It's like he didn't even want to play his music anymore. And so because Russell had such a bad experience, it's hard for me to watch any movie that he's in.
I
I didn't even go
understand.
see Tron Ares. I watched Morbius only because it was free on an airplane, and it was
Oh
still,
man,
I
it was
still turned it off because,
pretty bad. It
it's
was
bad when a movie is free and you still can't complete it,
yeah.
Like you're already in it for an hour, and that's like, you know what? I think I should just read a book.
There's one thing about going to cons is you meet all sorts of actors in the green room. I was in El Paso, as you know, last week, and I had a nice talk with Sam Jones.
He is a cool guy.
Yeah, he is a cool guy. Uh, uh, who else was there? Well, Cheech and Chong were there. I just watched them. I have nothing to say to Cheech and Chong. I don't do dope anymore, and they keep sending me their ads.
Did
uh,
you did you like the movie Flash Gordon?
oh yeah, I did like Flash Gordon, and I think it's a great property. I don't know why they don't do more in that vein. They don't have to remake that movie.
With
They just
Queen doing the soundtrack is epic. But a funny story about Flash Gordon. So I saw it. It came out when I was in the fourth grade. And as a fourth grader, it was the greatest movie ever made. I
Yep,
was just
yep,
like,
yep.
it was just so cool. And back then, you didn't have streaming, you didn't have even video rentals at the early part. So when video rentals started becoming a thing and you could rent these movies, I was dating my wife now, and we were in high school, and I was like, this is the greatest movie ever made. I hadn't seen it since the fourth grade. And she is not a sci-fi fan. And we start watching it, and it just wasn't as cool as I remembered it. Like the
Yeah,
whole football fight when he's like, blue 32 hut, and he's throwing this gold egg and hitting people. To me, that was the coolest scene in filmmaking history as a fourth grader. As a senior in high school, I was just like, oh, this isn't quite as cool as I remember it, but it's still awesome.
that often happens, and it reminds me I may watch the Blues Brothers again tonight.
Oh, what a great movie.
Yeah, that
So I
is.
don't know if I told you this. Last week I was in a movie,
Yes.
and I was hired. There's a lady named Jana Kramer who was on a TV show called One Tree Hill, and she stars in this movie. It's called Love Song to My Texas Ranger. It's a Lifetime movie, but Daphne Zuniga was in the movie, which Daphne Zuniga was the princess in Spaceballs.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think she was also in Vision Quest. And it was funny because I didn't know, they didn't tell me who was in the movie. So I show up on set and I see her and I'm like, that lady looks really familiar. And then I look on the call sheet. I'm like, Daphne Zuniga. Oh my gosh, dude. It's, she gets one of the buns shot off, and, it's just, I was like, oh my gosh, dude, I can say I was in a movie with Daphne Zuniga. I'm so excited. So, if any of your fans of Barkwire, keep looking out on Lifetime for a movie called Love Song to My Texas Ranger, I think is the title. Who knows if that will be the final title, but that's what it was called when we shot it. But I was the band leader. I was on stage playing with Jana. And also they used two of my songs in the movie. So it's kind of fun.
Let me just go back to Freddie.
Oh, Freddie Mercury.
He and Brian May met for lunch at it was the Ritz-Carlton in Boston. And I said, Freddie, how did you come to name your band Queen? And he went, oh, I don't know. It was just the most awful name I could think of.
Seriously?
That's
That's a
exactly
great quote. I know that made your article.
I know.
And who were you writing for at that time? The paper?
The Boston Phoenix. I was the music editor. I went out night after night. It was my job to listen to the music and talk to the musicians. It was such a terrible job.
That's really taking one for the team, Mike. You took
Yeah,
one
it
for
was.
the team.
Well, I got to see so many great bands at the time. I saw Pink Floyd on their first American tour, Paul McCartney and Wings, um, the Edgar Winter Group repeated times, and also Weather Report with Wayne Shorter, the great sax player, and Chick Corea. I recently saw Chick Corea here in town on his last tour. He died recently. And I've always loved his music. I have a bunch of his albums, but he announced, I'm going to play On Green Dolphin Street. And I was very excited because it's one of the most beautiful songs in jazz. It's beautiful anywhere. And what he played bore no relation to the melody. He was off in his own world, jamming on things that only he heard. And I've heard that a number of times in jazz, which I call bug music, and it's based on what they call free jazz, which was pioneered by Ornette Coleman, Albert Ayler, Pharoah Sanders, the Art Ensemble of Chicago, and they said, what would we sound like if we dispensed with regular meter, rhythm, harmony, and melody? Well, it sounds like an insular music that nobody wants to hear. But the funny thing is that the people that created bebop said, we're tired of playing for the white man. We're going to create a new music for musicians themselves. The bebop is wonderful. It has staying power. You can hum those tunes. It will live forever.
You know, it's funny. One of the things I love about doing this show with you is it truly is a stream of consciousness. You know, Mike will send me a message a couple hours before. Hey, what do you want to talk about today? And we'll just brainstorm a topic, but that may not be the topic we discuss because it's like story leads to story, leads to story. And it is a true stream of consciousness, which reminds me. So one of my clients, I don't know if I've told this story on your show before, but is the John Lennon educational tour bus. So they have this bus that Yoko Ono funded. And they travel around the country. It's a nonprofit to inspire kids to get into music. So I helped them build out the video side of the bus. So they'll have a mentor. It could be like the Black Eyed Peas are on the bus or Kevin Smith is on the bus, and they'll bring kids in and they'll get mentoring. But one of the funniest stories, we were at South by Southwest in Austin, and the bus is run by some young guys that basically live on the bus for a year. So during the day, they're making music, they're teaching kids how to record and make videos and all this stuff. And then they drive to the next location and then pull out the bunks and sleep on it. So these guys travel light, they live on a bus. So anytime I see the Lennon Bus guys, I always take an order and I go fill the bar. I buy a bunch of booze for them to have on the bus as a gift. So we're at South by Southwest, and George Clinton is hanging out on the bus.
I would love to meet George Clinton.
I've met him a couple of times through the Lennon Bus. But the funniest story was, dude, he was dressed in a suit. He had this really nice hat, looked super sharp, cleaned up, just looked great. And he was just awesome. And I was like, George, you look like you're doing great, man. What's the secret? He goes, lay off the crack. I don't know if he really did crack. I don't know, but he may have been joking. But it was the funniest thing to hear the P-Funk master respond that way.
Yeah, that reminds me of the triumvirate of great funk bands of the 70s. It was Clinton, Graham Central Station, and Earth, Wind, and Fire, if you can call them funk. But years later, Graham Central Station was headed by Larry Graham, who was Sly Stone's bass player, and he invented a new style of playing bass, the pop bass, where it became the rhythm section itself. And his own record, yeah, he did. And his own records, particularly the first two, are two of the most brilliant records in rhythm blues ever created. You can call them funk; they are funk. But years later, he lived in Minneapolis, and he became good friends with Prince. And it turns out that they were both Jehovah's Witnesses. So they decided to go out and go from house to house in various neighborhoods to talk to people about Jesus Christ. I'm thinking, can you imagine? Somebody knocks at the door, and you open the door, and there's Prince and Larry Graham. Excuse me, sir, can we talk to you about Jesus Christ? Yes,
I think people would listen. They would like, welcome them into their homes.
Oh, Tower of Power, Pops. Tower of Power is the greatest band that ever lived.
You know what? It's sad. I'm sitting here on the show eating graham crackers.
I love those graham crackers.
I'm just eating. You
Did you
know,
get
it's
them
so.
off Southwest Airlines?
I did.
Yeah,
Anytime I travel, if I'm not hungry, I take all the stuff and throw it in my backpack, and then I have a drawer full of, airline snacks that, in case of emergency, because I haven't eaten lunch or breakfast yet. And
I
so
asked
I'm
them
eating
for 5 of
Remy
those.
grams. You
I asked
recognize
them-
these from Southwest?
I asked them for 5 bags at a time. I did it on the way down to San Antonio, and they gave me 5 bags.
That's VIP, baby.
Yeah.
Mike Barron, some people have a rider that requires only green M&Ms. Mike wants 5 bags of Remy grams.
That's the only reason I fly Southwest.
Also, those little pretzels they give out are pretty good too. They're sweet. I don't like pretzels. I think pretzels are a waste of calories.
Me too.
Except those pretzels on Southwest. Those are worth eating.
They are pretty tasty. I will have those, but just 1 pack.
We have derailed completely, Mike.
All right. Well, let's call it a day.
I'm sitting here eating graham crackers, talking about the finer things of budget travel.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully, all your viewers will come out to San Diego. Look for the Antarctic Press booth.
I'm not sure I'm coming, Phil. I gotta find out if I can stay at my pal Gabe's table. Gabe is Big Man Comics. He just released his Tyrus comic, which I'm reading. He did the Dean Cain comic.
Oh, cool.
And he's also doing Empyrean. I wish I had I do. I have it in the other room, but Empyrean is a science fiction novel with a very soulful and religious base. And I know most people don't want to hear it, but it's not Islam, folks, and it's a great book.
Well, Mike, I'm going to recruit you. If you come to San Diego, I've got to get you at least for 1 hour at the Axie Cab table.
Well, there's no question if I come to San Diego, I'm going to sit at your table.
Here's what I will promise you. I will promote you better than anyone else. I am a hype man.
I know you are.
I will make sure we have we promote that Mike Barron is signing at the Axie Cab table. Bring your flash number ones.
Let me look into it.
Well, it's always good to visit with you, and I think we should. If you go to San Diego this year, I'm just going to say you have to join the crew of Insanity with us.
Uh-oh.
We're going to recruit you to Insanity.
It's not going to be like that party I went to the first year.
No. It's wholesome insanity.
All right.
It's wholesome insanity, not self-destructive insanity.
All right. Sounds good.
Go to the Eisner Awards with us. We'll get a table. It'll be me, you, Bob Burton, and whoever else we want to invite.
Okay, let me look into it.
Peer pressure.
Peer pressure from my peer.
All right. Are we done?
Yeah.
All right, Pops, thanks for having us today. Pops,
hey, heroes, cosplayers, and pop culture fans. Are you ready to assemble for the ultimate geek weekend? The Hall of Heroes Comic-Con is invading Elkhart, Indiana with 2 explosive days of comics, stars, and non-stop fun. Join us Saturday, May 30th and Sunday, May 31st, 2026 at the Northern Indiana Event Center in Elkhart. Doors open at 10 a.m. both days. VIP early entry at 9:30 a.m. on Saturday. We're rolling out a massive lineup of legends. Meet Eric Estrada from Chips and Fallout, Dirk Benedict from the A-Team and Battlestar Galactica, Tara Reid from American Pie and Sharknado, Catherine Cavadini, voice of Blossom from the Powerpuff Girls, Kel Mitchell from All That, Kevin and Kel and Mystery Men, horror icon Tony Moran, the original Michael Myers in Halloween and more. Plus, top comic artists including Arthur Sidem, Marvel Zombies and Deadpool, John Kramer from Batman and Wonder Woman, Keith Pollard, a legendary Marvel artist on Spider-Man and Thor, and more. Scott Rosama, Stuart Sager, and others. Get autographs, photo ops, and chats with the stars and creators who shaped your favorites. The floor is packed with over 150 vendors, artists, and cosplayers offering exclusive comics, collectibles, original art, and merch. Enjoy cosplay contests for kids and adults with great prizes, live Q&A panels, artist showcases, interactive zones, and family-friendly fun all weekend. And the excitement goes live Madness Entertainment Group is broadcasting straight from the con floor all weekend on YouTube, Build, and Rumble. Catch every moment as it happens, then relive it anytime with the full shows available later on Med TV on Roku. Grab your tickets today at hohcomiccon.org. Hall of Heroes Comic Con, May 30th and 31st, 2026. Northern Indiana Event Center, Elkhart, Indiana. We'll see you there, heroes. This ad was created by Nim on behalf of Madness Entertainment Group and Hall of Heroes Comic Con.
If you missed the live viewing of any Meg production, you can find all our content on Roku or as a member of this channel. Madness Entertainment Group.